deal with confronting that I might have raised them in a completely wrong way, you know, and especially with me because I tried to commit suicide. So it's like, hey, what's that about? Why is this kid so depressed? You know? And, you know, when I was in the hospital, you couldn't see the elders run away quick enough. Nobody came to visit me in the hospital. You know, all I had after I was in the hospital was a judicial committee. That is it.
Here, this is one of the hardest things to say, and it's one of the hardest things to hear, Jerry, but if you're Jehovah's Witness family, if you're disfellowshipped or whatever, they don't love you. They just don't. And it's not, and I'm not disparaging them as people. I'm just telling you the truth that your JW relatives don't love you, and you just need to get away from them.
There's so many people that go back who just have no intention, have no desire to be in it, but they go back for their families. They go sit in the back of the Kingdom Hall for a year, and they write a letter, and then maybe fade away after that, but still go through that.
What's amazing is that the governing body almost recommends that as a course of action now. That's something else that came out in the Australian thing, and also in another court case before that. The governing body is almost endorsing it and advertising it of saying, oh, you can just become inactive. See, there's a loophole where you can kind of slip through the cracks, so we recommend you do that. And it's like, huh? No, you shouldn't recommend you do that. That's you know, so these guys are so shifty.
You know what? Now it's a record, though. Now it's like, okay, so that's, you know, and that's the thing. Is like, that is pretty much what it was. And I didn't know that. Nobody told me that. And that's the thing. That's what makes it a captive organization is that, well, you should tell people that when they come in. So like, hey, if you want to leave, don't just do something, but just slip out and stop coming to the meetings for a while.
No, it should be on paper. You're right. It should be. Look, if that's part of the regimen, just say, if you want to go away quietly or something, here's the method, and just sign a piece of paper and go through the. Hey, they have paperwork for everything else. Have the paperwork to fade out, if that is the recommended course. You know what is with these people? What are we even doing anymore? This whole Australian thing is crazy. What is the point? At what point are people just going to start shaking their heads and saying, what are we doing again? Why is this happening? None of this has to be happening. What's it all for?
I thought that years ago. You know, for me, it was, you know, you said you were away for a few years. I was away for almost 20 years before I looked back. I never looked back. And it was really easy because no matter what Jehovah's Witnesses think, nobody else in the world gives a shit about them. I've been all over the world.
Thank you.
Very easy to not see them.
Thank you. Exactly. That's what I keep telling people, and nobody wants to believe it. I'm saying nobody gives two flips about Jehovah's Witnesses, and that's the whole point. That's the whole point. That everything they've done for 100 years is worthless because it didn't amount to anything. I'm not talking about in Borneo or Mongolia or someplace like this. In the United States, I have told people I'm Jehovah's Witness, and they say, "Oh, what?" Jerry, that's a bad sign.
In Brooklyn, I go, "Hey, that building's right over there. You know anything about that building?" "Oh, no. What does that say?" "Watchtower. What's that?"
It's inexcusable. No, pretend you're Jehovah setting up in the sky and you're looking down on this. And you've had some of the conversations I have where I say, "Oh, I was raised Jehovah's Witness," and they say, what? They don't know what it is in the United States. In the year 2015, they never heard of a Jehovah's Witness. Here's the problem, Jerry. It's getting worse. It's not getting better. And now the only time Jehovah's Witnesses are on TV is talking about child molestation.
Child molestation? The only time.
At what point are you going to concede that the preaching work failed? And it's their fault. It's not even Jehovah's fault. It's not the worldly people's fault. It is the Watchtower Society's fault, and I'll tell you why. And I could give you 5 or 6 reasons. I'll give you the foremost and most obvious. The presentations don't work. Now they weren't. Now we're talking about people that are broken and need to be fixed, and they're depressed, and they're alcoholics, or they're all. Yes, the presentations are tailor-made for the riffraff of society, and to bring them into the Kingdom Hall, and to give them that sense of whatever. Here's what the presentations don't do for normal people. Anything. You go to the door and you say, "Why is life so full of problems? Have you ever wondered that, sir?" And then you go into this 30-second thing, and a normal person standing at the door is like, "I don't have time for this. Who are you?" And they shut the door. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what any sensible person would do when somebody that is dressed like a salesman with a book bag shows up at their door unannounced. They don't even just ring the doorbell and say, "Hey, you probably heard of us. We're Jehovah's Witnesses." It's what we do. We witness about Jehovah. They don't even start off by that. They start off by saying, "Yes, we're volunteers doing a community service today and this morning on your street with you and your neighbors and everything." And you're like, "Huh?" It's almost like an infomercial thing and they don't get to the point. See, that's the problem. And this is why Jehovah can't even be... this is why Jehovah can't even rightly hold worldly people accountable for not bending their knee to Him and glorifying His name or whatever. They really did never have the opportunity, because the people who come to the doors don't get to the point. And also, if they leave an awake in the door, they count it as the person's chance. They say, "Oh, well, there we go," and then they write it down on a slip of paper that person got their chance, so they can be killed at Armageddon.
One time, he was like, "Here's the truth. You can joke on it."
It's getting worse, Jerry. Now they don't. Now have you seen on TV and on YouTube? They don't even talk to people. They stand on the sidewalk holding up a magazine in each hand. They don't even make eye contact with people. They don't even greet people. They stand there. They do what...
Because I've lived in LA and New York for the last 20 years. Never had a Jehovah's Witness ever come to my door, and there's no way that they would know that this is me, right? So there's no way they would know that this person was there. Never had anybody come to my door, because I lived in fairly upscale neighborhoods. They don't come over here, but I see them constantly in LA, working the same neighborhood or the same street corner where nobody goes, by the way. But there's no foot traffic. You just sit up there for a couple hours and then leave. That was weird because, I know you know this, when I was growing up, street witnessing was kind of like, not to use a pejorative, but that was like a pussy's way of getting, witnessing. You had to go to people's door, and even if they said, "I'm not interested," you went back, and, now they just stand there.
You're right. I remember if you suggested that you were going to do that for your morning field service, in the 90s, they would have said, "No, we don't do that." Oh, let me get this straight. You think you're going to sit on a park bench and hold a magazine in your hand and hope somebody walks up and says, "Hey, are those free? I'll take one." They would have said, "Nice try." No, that's not going to... Yeah.
Say something to them. If you walk up to them and say something, they'll look at you like, "What the fuck? Why are you talking?"
Jerry, you're not even kidding. You're not even kidding about this, and I know this firsthand because I was with a friend at a flea market about 6 months ago, and we saw the jw.org booth set up at the flea market. Now that's in good taste, by the way. At a flea market, the jw.org booth, and it was just a ramshackle cardboard plywood booth set up there with a big blue sticker. Oh, we really are at the climax of human history. Jehovah's grand climax had turned into a blue sticker. Well, my friend was like, you should go up and jack around with them. And I said, "Everybody knows me." And I said, I was just standing around the corner. I was like, "I know those people and they know me." And he said, "Oh, I'll go do it." And walked over there and tried to have a conversation with them. Wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. It was like talking to a brick wall. It really was. They were unresponsive. They were uninterested. They were standing there. And when the person tried to talk to the Jehovah's Witnesses, tried to ask them questions, All they did was just hand them the thing and say, you can scan it with your phone. And go and join it up and down.
Right.
And they wouldn't answer. They were ambivalent. They were not, you know, it used to be the householder that was not interested. These JWs were not interested. You know the larger problem here, Jerry? Armageddon, instead of being like 1 to 2 years away the way it used to be, it's like 10 years away for the Jehovah's Witnesses. And all the the vibe I get from JWs now is they all think that I almost called it Armageddon JW Day. They all believe that JW Day is like 5 to 10 to 15 years away. And that's a total shift. They say, oh, Armageddon's coming. It's probably about 10 years away. 10 years? That has changed people, Jerry. It's changed people's points of view. It's changed people's lifestyles. It's changed people's long-term, short-term plans. And it has given a completely different feel to the entire religion. I've even heard Jehovah's Witnesses say, who knows when Armageddon will be? It doesn't really matter anymore. That's different.
I mean, you know, look, my mom came in 75. She started studying in 75.
Mm-hmm.
She got baptized in 76. And at that point in time, where we talked about it, because it would come up still then, is that those people, the people that fell away for that, were just serving for a day.
Yeah.
And isn't it good that Jehovah delayed the day because people like my mom were able to get in? And still feeling, I would say even around 1980, even in the 80s, we were still feeling that 75 was a significant year. That just didn't happen there. But we were still feeling like, oh no, people just got it wrong. The society was always saying that it was going to be something significant. And so it's close. So it's going to be around this time. We were still like kind of holding on to the day in a way, you know. And then I got exposed in '89. And then it was the 90s, and I was just convinced that Armageddon was like 3 months away, you know. So it has to be. I mean, there was also something at that time they were teaching that it has to be before the close of the century. It has to be before 2000.
Yeah. They'll deny that.
That's what the reasoning.
They'll deny that.
That was bad.
I have 2 books. I have 2 books sitting in my own library that specifically state that the preaching work will be completed in the 20th century and that these events would be concluded and completed in the 20th century. And those are just 2 little books I have sitting on my own shelf. Jerry, the problem here is, since the time period where they were saying, isn't it good that Jehovah delayed? Isn't that a good favor that Jehovah did for us by delaying the end of this system of things? Because it was supposed to come then, but Jehovah at the last minute said, you know what? I'll delay. I'll hold it off. The problem is that billions, that's billions with a B, billions more people are going to die now because they got born. So billions of people more, that's just billions of gallons of blood more blood is going to get spilled. Not to mention that you and me and between 50 to 90,000 people annually have also been disfellowshipped and are also going to have their blood spilled every year since the 25 years or whatever that Jehovah decided. There are 35 years that Jehovah has delayed. So you're talking about, and people think I'm crazy when I say this, but I'm like, wait, according to statistically, just last year, approximately 95,000 Jehovah's Witnesses got disfellowshipped. And I remember in years past that we're talking about in the late 80s, I remember the circuit overseer saying that 60,000 Jehovah's Witnesses get disfellowshipped a year. And then when I say that there's hundreds of thousands or millions of disfellowshipped people look at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, wait, do you think you can disfellowship people every day and it's not going to add up? I've even floated the idea that there's more, maybe I shouldn't say disfellowship people, but there are more estranged and marginalized ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. There's more ex-Jehovah's Witnesses than there are Jehovah's Witnesses. You and me can get real, right?
I'm going to say a lot more. I think a lot more.
I think so too, and I've had people challenge me on that, and I'm like, you really believe that the 7 million Jehovah's Witnesses outnumber all the people who have been discarded over the years? And if you want to count people that used to be publishers, what about people that used to study? Okay, what about all the family members and ex-husbands and everyone else that has been screwed over by Jehovah? Now what kind of millions of people are you talking about?
Hey, you know that's what I realized when I started doing this thing, is I started counting the people. Like I told you, I thought it was all black male comics.
Yeah.
And, so the ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, you know, is Tracy Morgan, there's the woman that used to be on The View, you know, there's the Wayans.
There's Principal Black. You know, there's Principal Black Man from you. You used to be in the Second City group, right?
I was in the Second City, yeah.
There is, I can't remember the actor's name, but he was on the sitcom Strangers with Candy, and he was actually a Jehovah's Witness out in service.
Yeah.
And the territory he was working in had the Second City, and he knocked on the door, and they let him inside, and he stayed, and he became a comedian. You probably even know the gentleman. I can't remember his name.
Greg Howman. He's a good friend of mine.
Oh, he is? I read that story online, and I was like, how about that? Jehovah sends you out in service, and then you become a comedian. Ay, ay, ay.
Yep.
I remember another...
He may be fudging that story a little bit, but I mean, he's a really nice guy, but he's also...
Oh, he's kind of crazy?
He's also a...
I heard another experience that was on that XJW picnic channel where they just talk to people at picnics. There was another guy that was Jehovah's Witness, and he said that he was out in service, and there was a topless bar that was in the territory. And for whatever reason, he shouldn't have gone in, but he was Jehovah's Witness wearing a tie out in service and everything, and he went into this topless bar, and he just went in there and he said, "This is where I belong. This is what it's all about for me." And he never, that changed him. That was just his personal experience. But the irony was that he was a guy who was going out in service. He saw it and said, "I'll never be the same." Right. Whoever you are, whatever you're doing, the Jehovah's Witnesses they want to shut you up. Whoever you are, if you're not one of their robots, they want to shut you down. They want to stop you. They want to change you. That's what they want to do. That's their mission. And I said, whoever you are, don't let them do it. Just resist them. Yeah. And what I remember about being a Jehovah's Witness was that, ironically, because they're the silliest religion you could ever possibly even come up with. They are the silliest people in the world, but they take themselves deathly seriously. You can't joke around about anything about Jehovah. They take themselves morbidly seriously, and that's why people poking fun at, people joking about being a Jehovah's Witness and everything, that's like their kryptonite. It's poison to them, because the whole Jehovah's Witness thing is everyone else thinks we're a joke, but we know how serious we are, and we're the most serious thing that's ever happened in the world. And that's why, to me, just having some lighthearted fun with the Jehovah's Witnesses, and it just... I love it. I love talking to Jehovah's Witness commenters and screen names on YouTube, because they are the most humorless. Well, you being a comedian, you know that you've got to have in a good comedy show, you got to have the straight man. And Jehovah's Witnesses, they provide you the perfect straight man to bounce material off of, because they have no self-awareness. That's what's incredible about the Jehovah's Witnesses, is that they pick apart other people. They want to dissect everyone they meet and tell them everything that's going on about them and everything that's wrong with them. But these people have no self-reflection. They have no common awareness of themselves. And that's what makes them so ridiculous.
About that Australian Commission thing, because the governing body member was just so ready to read the Bible and stuff, and I don't think he was prepared for them to throw the Bible back at him too. But he was just so ready to like, yep, this is what I'm going to do. This is the right thing to do, and not like, hey man, you know, something happened to one of your members. Are you concerned about that? Did you read about that? He's so ready to defend his fellowship policy.
The problem, the reason Jehovah's Witnesses are having so many problems with outsiders, worldly people, dissenters, critics, whatever you want to call them, is that they also do a very poor job of preparing their members for what's actually going to happen. They never plan for the unplannable. They can't do it.
Right.
On the Thursday night meetings, you remember the Thursday night meetings, everything was always best case scenario. When they would do the demonstrations on stage, where they would act out the interactions with householders, it always ended the same way. It always followed the same rhythm and the same and it always ended the same way, saying, these look like something I would be interested in reading. Let me get you something. I'll give you a donation here. That's the way, and then people clapped. You could never have a real demonstration on stage where a person would say, "What the hell are you talking about? How dare you?" Those things would never happen on stage, where there'd be a realistic thing where somebody answers the door and they just woke up, or they're drunk, or they're naked, or God knows what else. Those things are never going to happen on stage where somebody answers the door and say, who do you think you are? I didn't invite you to my house. What are you doing here? And that's the problem with it's manifesting itself in courtrooms and other forums where Jehovah's Witnesses don't know what to do with themselves except shut down or run away, because every demonstration and every experience that is given from the district convention stage or the Kingdom Hall stage, the experience parts, the yearbook stories, whatever, every time an approved Jehovah's Witness method of communicating their interactions with worldly people, it always works out in the favor of Jehovah's Witnesses. And it's always something that is uplifting and something that you can clearly see Jehovah's had a hand in, and that Jehovah gave you a favorable outcome. But 90% of the time, that's not really going to happen. And so they screw over their own people because they don't set them up they don't help them plan for the reality that the householder isn't following your script. And in this case, the judge and the lawyer and the court clerk or whoever else isn't following your script, buddy.
Right.
And so they're getting... Yeah.
I'm sorry about the demonstration. So I was looking at some clips from the last convention, and you had said something about that too, because so many of those demonstrations, I never thought about this when I was in, but I guess I did at some point, and I'll tell you the specific instance, but I never thought like, hey, I didn't know this happened to brother so-and-so. I didn't know that he, lost his job and he found $50 in the garbage of Jehovah's. Did you ever think that those were lies that they were telling up there?
Again, you're getting into the realm of cognitive dissonance, which, between you and me, Jerry, let's get real. You didn't hear the $50 story about the $50 bill under the sink because it didn't happen until right before the assembly, when it was scheduled to happen annually. And the thing is... And... Yeah.
It happened in different assemblies. I would go to different assemblies, and the same part, that same person would give almost the same, sometimes the details are a little bit different, but pretty much the same story. That was another thing, too. It's like, wow, okay.
The thing is that after years pass, speaking personally, as years pass, there gets to be a place inside you where you know that Jehovah is lying to you, but you can't accept it because Jehovah is the person that doesn't lie. I remember reading the Watchtower and Awake magazines, and every edition in the back pages would be letters from readers. And,
right.
and you're reading it, and you know that it's a lie. You know that a reader did not write that letter. You know that Jehovah's Magazine is lying to you. They made up a letter. And you know that, but you also don't know that because it can't be true because Jehovah doesn't lie.
Well, I did it. I've done the part, and I'm thinking about it. I can't even remember what I said, but I remember it being like a personal thing, and the person, whoever was giving the talk or whatever, going over with me and telling me what to say. And I had it all on note cards, and somehow we arranged my story into the thing, however it went. I don't remember what I said. I don't remember when I got baptized, so a lot of that stuff was just like, I must have just blanked out, or, you know, I don't know what I was moving on in my head. But, one time I noticed it was, you know, a lot of the multi-level marketing schemes would come through the Kingdom Halls, and there was one that came through ours, and there was some publishers that brought my mom in, and they were really like old-timey, you know, trusted, Uber Jehovah's Witnesses. And I remember the mom talking about whatever product this marketing company was selling. Yeah. And she was saying, like, you know, he put the water from this whatever product, a farmer fed it to his chicken, and then they grew up to 50 pounds. And I looked at my mom, and I was just like, that's a lie.
Well,
but
sounds like Miracle Week.
The marketing thing, it was just like the Kingdom Hall.
Yeah.
The meeting was just like the Kingdom Hall. And I remember them going like, this is the Kingdom Hall, so just make sure, you know, this is a business thing, but there was nothing but Jehovah's Witnesses there. And I remember going like, hey, what's those Jehovah's Witnesses? Is it okay for her to lie like that? 50-pound chicken? That's ridiculous.
No. I remember in the 90s, oh, it was one after another that swept through. I remember the big one in the 90s that swept through our Kingdom Hall was Malaluka. And it was Jehovah's Witnesses leveraging their credibility as respectable Jehovah's Witnesses against each other. I remember somebody that I went to someone that I knew at Bethel, and I touched base with him about 5 years later and just checked in with him, and he said, "Oh, we lost everything in a pyramid scheme." And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." His family got wiped out, and they were living in someone else's guest house now. And I remember that I said, "Oh, how did they get you?" And they said, "Well, it happened at the Kingdom Hall." That's the most classic, most basic ripoff of Jehovah's Witnesses. I'll become an elder and get some kids to work for me for pennies because I'm an elder. I did it. Oh, me too. I can't tell you how.
You work for this brother. They'll understand that you gotta go out and service. I'm working like 12 hours at night, getting up, not getting any sleep, and trying to go out and service in the morning, which makes you a robot, so I have no sleep. Like that's practical. That's stupid. Somebody should have told me that's dangerous.
But the good thing about working for a brother is because they're a brother, they're not going to rip you off, and you just have that peace of mind. They're not going to rip you off like a worldly person would. So you just have that peace of mind.
Completely ripped off. I had a brother, and this goes into some other stuff too, because one of the things that attracted the Jehovah's Witnesses to my mom was that it was this racial unity, and I can't say that they do have that. But a lot of cults do too. The People's Temple were all like mixed up, black, white, whatever. But that was what impressed her. But I worked for this brother who was in another congregation, and there were congregations where I lived that were mixed, but a lot of our congregations weren't, and they did not want to be mixed. And sometimes there would be a problem when the territories got switched around, and all of a sudden you had a half black, half white congregation. We had some problems. There were some brothers that didn't like that, But this brother would not let me in his house when I came to get my money, my check, or the pennies that he was paying me. He was subcontract for him, so I wasn't an employee. I didn't get benefits. He just let me come in his house. And I remember one time his son came to the door, and he goes, "Oh, Dad, there's a black man at the door." I'm like, there's a brother at the door.
Yikes.
I'm not a random black man.
Ay.
That's not lying, thing of like, oh yes, we're all unified, but
Yeah.
When I came in, or my mom came in, I could see there was a definite push, and throughout the 70s and 80s, I mean, not there was like an emphasis on it, but a lot of African Americans were coming in. And then during the late 80s, 90s, it was Hispanic.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of thing permeates other subcultures, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's kind of a grassroots word-of-mouth kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so there was all these black people coming in. And so it seemed like it was nothing but black people. And I've had people ask me, worldly people or whatever, ask me, is it an African-American religion? It actually is. It has the highest amount of non-white people in it in the United States of any of the religion.
I think it was Paul Mooney that said it's Scientology for black people.
Black people, yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's the weird thing, too, because Scientology is now making this push here, especially in L.A., to get African Americans. And it's kind of linked up with the Nation of Islam. And Louis Farrakhan has been audited, and now they're auditing each other.
You're kidding me.
And they're doing Scientology.
Oh, my God.
They're doing Scientology in the Nation of Islam now.
Well, they deserve each other. That's all I can say.
Well, they're both failing. They got to merge.
That's Jerry. I hear what you're saying, but when you break it down, that's insane.
Isn't that insane?
Because their core doctrines and belief systems are in such direct conflict. That's, if you want to talk about strange bedfellows, and also just how disingenuous the whole religion business is to begin with. I mean, if you want to take a very cynical look at it all, well, there you have it. Ay.
It's a business just like any other business.
It is. I've come to have such a cynical view of the whole jw.org, because it seems like the original Jehovah's Witness organization sold its soul, or if it ever had one. I guess it was all imaginary and pretend to begin with, but it seems like anything that was real about Jehovah's Witnesses got sold down the river for this jw.org business. It's like they lost all dignity, all properness, everything went out the window. They sacrificed it for the immediate benefit of remaining relevant.
And I think also to remain solvent.
Yeah.
They had to be bleeding money. For the late 90s. When that thing happened, what was it, Jerry Falwell, whatever, when they couldn't charge for magazines anymore, basically.
Yeah.
I saw that was around then, and I saw that as like, this is going to be a turning point. And then at the same time, the big push for the quick builds came. So then it turned into a real estate thing.
Yep, you know your timeline. And also Jehovah's magical revealing of the new donation arrangement. It was all bing bang boom. It's just
They gotta be bleeding money.
Printing hundreds of, printing 90 million Watchtower magazines in a world where people don't read paper magazines anymore. I mean, it had to give. And amazingly, that Jehovah would sell out his own principles about it's a big deal to me. It doesn't seem to be that big of a deal to other people, but bumper stickers.
You're
putting Jehovah on a bumper sticker. Putting bumper stickers on the kingdom. They're putting stickers on the Kingdom Hall. It seems to be beneath the dignity of the creator of the universe, whose throne is upon high, and now he's into bumper stickers. I don't think it resonates with some people the same way it does me. That I said these are the same people that say if somebody wore a yellow tie to the Kingdom Hall, they'd send them home because it was beneath the dignity of Jehovah. Or if people, it was the silliest things. If they'd measure the length of people's sideburns, We're talking about those people. And now they're wearing buttons and stickers with jw.org and cartoons smiling. Hey, bud, we're a couple years away from Pixar Jesus. It's coming. Mark my words, you will see cartoon. There may even be an incarnation of it as we speak. I don't even really watch the kid videos, but that DreamWorks Jesus, it's coming.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had a group of friends that were around your age, or if you knew anybody that was around your age or in your town. I didn't have anybody in my congregation, but I had some friends that lived close to me that were in different congregations. And like in my senior year, I got baptized, and some of my friends did too. And from there, it was just like a downhill slide. And it just seems like the organization just picked on young people.
Relentlessly.
And I got my own theory about that. What do you think about that? Why?
Here's what I tell people. Here's what I tell worldly people or outsiders or whatever you want to call them. Here's what you need to know about Jehovah's Witnesses. And I open up the Revelation book to the bandana people, the screaming, the screaming people that are holding sticks and they're wearing bandanas and screaming at Jehovah's people. Here's what they don't tell you. Those people, the screaming, insane bandana people, that's their kids. That's, yeah. That's not, you would assume that those are worldly people who hate Jehovah. What they don't tell you is that their worst enemies are their own families. And that Satan's system of things did not build these soldiers in this army that's rising up against Jehovah. Jehovah created them. And Jehovah is, it would stand to reason Jehovah is responsible for this whole mess, and yet somehow they keep pointing their fingers at worldly people who don't even know anything about Jehovah's Witnesses. They're like, you have to explain to me who you are and what's going on, because I don't even know. But they still solidly just will squarely point their finger at the world that doesn't know jack squat about what Jehovah's Witness, what are you people even doing or talking about? And they will not accept responsibility for creating their own enemies, their own enemy race of people, generating, here's the way I see it. You and I and however many other people that are mentally diseased in this world were generated by Jehovah's system and then dumped into the world. Because you have to go bad as a Jehovah's Witness before you can be dumped into Satan's world. It's their family that is Satan's army. Well, how does that make sense and how does that work? Maybe you can tell me. It's all fishy.
You know, I remember every once in a while there was always just stick out my mind, that talk where, the district convention or circuit assembly that was just picking on kids. I see you walking around here with your bad attitude, and it's like, you can't even be a natural teenager.
No.
That is the natural state of a teenager. You can't even do that. You're just wrong. You're just wrong.
It's criminalized.
Wrong for not wanting to. We see you walking around the corridors, not sitting down, not paying attention, Like, I'm constant berating, I remember as a teenager thinking, like, I'm not even doing anything. I'm sitting in my seat.
Yeah.
Leave me alone,
As insane as it sounds, Jehovah, you could talk to a Jehovah's Witness, and you would talk to them, and they would even agree with you. You say, that like a 1 and 2 year old, they can't focus on the stage. If a kid is under the age of 5, they do not have the mental faculty or wherewithal to focus in on an adult speaker you do understand they cannot comprehend what is being said. It's physically impossible in their brain for it to mean anything to them, or to, and they'll not, and they'll say, and then they'll whip their kids right in front of you. They will take their belt off and whip their kids right in front of you. They're 3-year-olds. And that's how early it begins. 2, 3 years old. Kids getting smacked, spanked. It can even be, I'm talking about, and I've seen this in the Kingdom Hall, kids that can't walk.
Oh, yeah.
Kids that cannot walk under their own power. They're wobbling. They're stumbling when they walk. And they're getting smacked, even just lightly smacked in the face for not paying attention to the speaker.
Yes, for fidgeting. That's what I used to get it for.
And that's how early it begins. And you're right, it only increases, yeah. And by the time you're a teenager, it's like your public enemy number one. And they know ahead of time, they know in advance that you're going to do teenage things, like you're saying. And they're planning for it. They're planning on how they will incriminate you, how they will persecute you, bring you to justice for doing the things that they know that you're going to do. They know that you're going to go through puberty. They know that you're going to get erections or whatever, and they're already planning on it and how they will dispense justice and punishment out to you for these things that they know are going to happen to you involuntarily. And that's Jehovah's Witnesses, folks. That's how they do it. That's Jehovah. He creates situations and then punishes the people who find themselves in the situations. That's the name of the game for Jehovah. By the way, he's the perfect person that none of this stuff happens to. Jehovah doesn't go through puberty. Jehovah isn't a baby sitting there that doesn't even know what... Jehovah isn't a baby sitting there that doesn't know what a Jehovah is and doesn't know what a speaker is and doesn't know what a Kingdom Hall is. All that they know is that they're going to get slapped and spanked. Jehovah's never been in that situation. He's only inflicted it upon other people. You see, he's above. None of that will ever happen to him. In fact, nothing bad ever happens to Jehovah. Isn't that amazing about him? It all happens to you.
Let me ask you something. Did you hear Jeffrey Jackson say that he didn't believe in corporal punishment?
No, I missed that.
He said that.
You know what? Considering all the hundreds of thousands of kids that got their ass whipped in the Kingdom Hall, what's that even supposed to mean? Oh, how comforting that Jeffrey Jackson doesn't believe in corporal punishment.
Me included. I'm like, why didn't that ever come out in the watchtower so that I didn't get my ass beat? Why didn't that ever come out?
You know,
I didn't seem to get that message from the governing body. That maybe that one of them, you know what? My mother might have taken it seriously. One of the governing body doesn't believe in beating his kids. So maybe you shouldn't too.
What I remember, and I don't even know what to say to that, Jerry, except I'll just share this experience with you. One time I remember there was a get-together, there was a summer get-together that was being held in a park. And this wasn't a Kingdom Hall function or anything like that. It was a get-together. Well, some of the witness kids were playing in the park, and this was July, it wasn't July 4th, it was July 2nd or July 3rd. Anyway, there was about 8 or 9 or 10 witness kids that walked over to where some worldly kids were doing fireworks. And they didn't light any fireworks, and they didn't play with any fireworks, but they stood there about 15 feet away and watched the worldly kids play with their fireworks. Well, one of the elders in the congregation, and this was our congregation, this was a true story, came to take notice of this group of JW kids that were watching the worldly kids enjoy their fireworks. Do you know what that elder did? He went over there and he lined up all of the JW children against a fence. He took his belt off and he whipped them. He whipped them all, one after another with his belt. They weren't even his kids. And he whipped them. Not for playing with fireworks. Not for playing with fireworks. Not for celebrating 4th of July because it wasn't 4th of July. For watching other worldly kids play with fireworks. He lined up children from ages 12 to age 5. He lined them up against a wall and whipped them with a belt. And now Jeffrey Jackson says, I don't believe in corporal punishment. Excuse me, what I did catch the other day was I clicked on a little video where he was saying that they were asking him about disfellowshippings, and he was talking about the loophole where you can people can become inactive as JWs, and that's the easy way out of the religion. And the court person there was pressing the issue, and he said, even inactive JWs that celebrate Christmas, would they be disfellowshipped? And he said, not to my knowledge. And to me, I said, that's all you got to know about this character. This is the guy that makes the rules. And now he's asked a question about disfellowshipping, and he said, not to my knowledge. Maybe you could, maybe you could. I'm just the guy who makes the rules. What is even going on anymore, Jerry?
He said it wasn't his expertise a couple of times, and it's like, hey, wait a minute, man, you're the leader of this thing.
They said, what's amazing is that this isn't the first time that the governing body has been in court, and their excuse for why they don't have to answer questions or shouldn't even have to be there is because we're just, philosophically kind of these people that kind of oversee the general idea of Jehovah's Witnesses. We don't really have a hands-on role.
And why don't Jehovah's Witnesses listen to that and go like, okay, just take this whatever they say with a grain of salt? But they don't.
Because Jehovah's Witnesses have an abusive relationship. Jehovah's Witnesses is like a big family. It really is. And it's an abusive family. It is very much like a parent that throws the children under the bus. They really are they're like deadbeat parents. There's certain JW Watchtower apologists that seem to spend most of their time making excuses for the governing body. That they mean, well, they're a religion of deluded people. I don't make those excuses.
Yeah, you can't make that excuse.
I don't make those excuses.
But it's very dangerous, no matter what. So,
to me,
deluded too, obviously.
I refuse to give that excuse to any Jehovah's Witness, including my own relatives. I will not make that excuse for them anymore, and I won't stand by and listen to anyone make that excuse for any Jehovah's Witness. Oh, they're deluded. It doesn't work for me. No, I've seen too much. I know too much. When I've seen JWs inflicting harm upon other people, and their excuse is, I'm deluded. No, I can't. At some point, you have to just. And this is the point that I hope other people come to and just finally start reaching, of saying, no. This is the year 2015, and next year will be 2016, 2017. Excuse me, is it going to be like the year 2050, and people are still making the same tired, crusty excuses for the Jehovah's Witnesses? Oh, they're the nicest people in the world. They're just so deluded. At what point are people actually going to say, you know what? You can't be whipping kids and disfellowshipping people and doing all these terrible things and still be the nicest, best, cleanest people in the world? You can't. I know that people have this phony nostalgia of Jehovah's Witnesses. Every person you talk to, it seems like they have a story about good old Brother Johnson. Well, he was like a grandfather to me. Oh, I just remember the good old brothers and sisters at the Kingdom Hall on those Sunday meetings. And I'm like, those people are dead. I don't know any of those people anymore. They all died. All those good old grandfather Werther's original people that used to take you fishing on the... I don't know any of these people. The people I know, they're bad people. I'm sorry. Almost every JW I know is... I guess this isn't PC for me to say. They either have a serious personality problem or they're just downright awful. There, I said it.
Well, it kind of makes them into that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately,
look, you can't...
I'd like to say that the core of these people, somewhere in there, are good, but it makes them into
Jerry, I want to say that... Jerry, I want to say that too, and that's what you're supposed to say. That's the standard line you're supposed to say about Jehovah's Witnesses. They're just such good people. At what point do you get real and say, you can't pump yourself full of mean-spirited, destructive attitudes 3 times a week, every week, every month for your entire life, and then still say, boy, I'm just such a good person, aren't I? That's why I pump myself full of really repulsive, hateful, mean-spirited attitudes and views towards women, gays, worldly people. Look, they don't. It's gotten so out of hand that it's like people forget that they have a mean, negative, bigoted opinion of everyone that isn't them. And their excuse is, oh, worldly people is just what we call you. We just call you Christendom, and the worldly people in Babylon the Great, and the gays. At what point do you say, you know what, you're not that nice. You're not really a nice person.
Right.
And being nice is easy.
And also, what I like to say too is like when people say like, well, you know, it's like other religions, they probably or whatever. It's like the biggest thing I can say about other religions, the other big religions, is that the real idea of charity, which Jehovah's Witnesses have no idea of, because their idea of charity is giving to everyone, not just other Jehovah's Witnesses. Catholics have foundations that do nothing but charity. Jehovah's Witnesses have nothing like that. And I know the new system is coming, which I was going to take care of everything. But we know that people need things now. Jesus said that. Jesus said that. And they do not care about people now. They just don't.
To go one further than that, the illustration of, the Bible story of the Good Samaritan that saw somebody that had been lying on the road that was beaten by robbers. Did he wake that guy up and say, I just need to check, what is your standing in the congregation? I just need to know that ahead of time. You're not disfellowshipped or anything, are you? I just need to know that you're somebody who is deserving. I need to know that you're a deserving person who will appreciate that. Also, I'd be happy to give you some food or money for the hotel where you're going to recover. I was going to give money to this innkeeper to help you recover from this terrible beating you had. I just need to know that you're also going to accept some spiritual food to go hand in hand with that, because we do help people. We'd be willing to get some groceries for you, maybe help you get some clean clothes to wear, but also we need to make sure that you're serious about studying. I don't remember that being in the Bible story. Well, anyway, I'm just kidding.
You know that you're not just here for food. You gotta be here for other reasons.
Yeah. Well, Jerry, if there's a quid pro quo for Jehovah's Witnesses, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's almost a satanic thing. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but isn't that the whole idea of Satan's debased view of life in the world? Is that Satan says, well, everybody's in it for themselves. Everybody's getting something. Right. Everybody has an angle, and that's what in the book of Job, that was Satan's original story from way back when, that he said everybody's got something coming to them, or they're trying to. And don't Jehovah's Witnesses essentially share that same deviant attitude, that they have a very pessimistic view of people in general, that everyone, like people that are claiming to repent of their, like when they go into a judicial committee, they begin from the position that the person is a liar that is trying to get one over on the brothers, and that they don't want to lose their families and they don't want to lose their friends, and so that's why they're pretending to be sorry, but the brothers aren't going to fall for it. That's a very negative attitude of people that are supposed to be believing all things in love, according to scriptures. The love believes all things and hopes all things. They don't exactly believe all things, especially from people that are supposed to be sharing the same love that they do, the love of Jehovah. But it's a trick. We don't know who to trust. Also, they...
I'm hurt.
Yeah.
But...
Oh, I didn't...
I heard so many stories. I'm sorry. I heard so many stories of people like me who confessed to the elders, who went to them and got this fellowship. Who went to the elders, and then their remedy was to cut them off from all their friends and family. So this is not even people who were going for a judicial committee who are accused of something. These are people who told them themselves, and then that's how it's handled. Now, I just don't. I don't understand. I don't understand that. I don't understand how any kind of human compassion goes into that kind of decision.
Here's what somebody told me a while back. I caught up with somebody that I was from my younger years, somebody that was a JW the same time I was, and I got together with him, and he was just telling me about his life, and he just had this really jacked up life where he had, I mean, you know, he's addicted to cigarettes now, he has tattoos and all this stuff too, and what he told me was, he said, I wouldn't be this way, he said, I wouldn't have been this way if they would have helped me, but instead they threw me to the wolves. And that was supposed to help me somehow, but the thing is, they didn't offer me any help. I told them that I had sinned, and they punished me instead of helping me. And I went to them, I went to them, and he confessed. And he had done more than one sin, obviously, but he had committed a series of sins, but he went to them, and their course of action was to hand them over to it's like you're handing people over to Jehovah's enemy, Satan. How does that make sense? Well, it only makes sense if you start to realize they're not really trying to help you. All they're trying to do is it's a containment of the group. It's a group, it's a pack system of saying, you have become a liability to our pack, and we dispense. It's a dispensing thing. That there have been a number of people that said, I didn't think I was going to get disfellowshipped. I thought I was going to. And people that said, I knew I sinned. I didn't think I'd be disfellowshipped since I was repenting. And I said, I was repenting until the cows came home. They just walked in the room and said, you're disfellowshipped. Get out. That's pretty
I thought that they were going to even disfellowship me, but they would still work with me. I had no idea that when you get disfellowship, they don't talk to you. You just write a letter. Because I'm like, hey, brothers, I tried to kill myself. I still need help. Well, good luck. Do I go out to the worldly psychiatrist and get it all in the Satan system and try to get help? I guess so. Up to you. Write a letter in the year.
You know, I was thinking about that the other day, Jerry. That an NFL player, I won't name his name, but he got cut by the 49ers. You probably saw this on SportsCenter because he had like his third run-in with the law in like the past 2 years, and the team cut him because they just said, "Look, you can't play football here. You lost your job." But and this is a football team. This is Satan's, whatever. They said, but we still care about you, and you could still they invited him to still come to the clubhouse. They said, you can still hang out with us. We don't want you to get depressed or start going backwards or revert as a human being because we knew that you were trying to do better. You just failed, but we're still your friend. And the coach said, you still have my phone number. And he said this in a press conference. He said, I'm going to still spend time with you. You can still come to my house. I'm still your friend. You just don't play football here anymore. But why couldn't Jehovah's Witnesses look, if you're in prison, if you're the worst dredge of society, if you are the scum of the earth and you are in prison and you are having psychological problems or try to kill yourself, they'll get you a doctor. They'll help you. They'll get you a psychiatrist and try to and you're the person that's so bad they say we have to lock you away from other human beings because you're not even fit to be around them. But we are not going to turn your back on you. How is Jehovah the most compassionate person in the universe? He doesn't do shit for people. Ever.
Yeah, that's everything. That clicked. And all the despair and everything that I was going through, that clicked. I'm like, this isn't Jehovah's love. This is not compassion. I know the situation I'm in, and I just clicked, and everything fell away. But the best thing was that it clicked because I wasn't going to need him.
That is, I can't even tell you how many people have told me that they left Jehovah's Witnesses not under their own compulsion or under their own power, but after it was like 2 years after they were kicked out or shown the door of the religion. It was like after a while later, after they were cut off from the spiritual food, quote unquote, that, and you're supposed, when you're disfellowship, you're still supposed to go to the meetings, and they want you to go to the meetings even though you've been disfellowshipped. They're like, well, we're not going to talk to you, but you're supposed to be here though.
Right.
People that just after they get disfellowshipped, they fall away. After they get cut off from the pipeline, they start saying, hey, wait, I didn't do anything wrong to you. You screwed me over. You used me. You used me for free labor. You took my money. I worked for you for years. You never said thank you. And then the first time that I fell down on I started having a problem or did something that I wish I hadn't, you handed me over to Satan. What's amazing is that the governing body almost recommends that as a course of action now. That's something else that came out in the Australian thing, and also in another court case before that. The governing body is almost endorsing it and advertising it, of saying, oh, you can just become inactive. See, there's a loophole where you can kind of slip through the cracks. We recommend you do that. And it's like, huh? No, you shouldn't recommend you do that. That's so these guys are so shifty.
You know what? Now it's a record, though. Now it's like, okay, so that's, and that's the thing, is like, that is pretty much what it was. And I didn't know that. Nobody told me that. And that's the thing. That's what makes it a captive organization, is that, well, you should tell people that when they come in. So like, hey, if you want to leave, don't just do something, but just slip out and stop coming to the meetings for a while.
No, it should be on paper. You're right. It should be. Look, if that's part of the regimen, just say, if you want to go away quietly or something, here's the method, and just sign a piece of paper and go through the. Hey, they have paperwork for everything else. Have the paperwork to fade out, if that is the recommended course. What is with these people? What are we even doing anymore? This whole Australian thing is crazy. What is the point? At what point are people just going to start shaking their heads and saying, what are we doing again? Why is this happening? None of this has to be.
Deal with confronting that I might have raised them in a completely wrong way, and especially with me, because I tried to commit suicide. So it's like, hey, what's that about? Why is this kid so depressed? And when I was in the hospital, you couldn't see the elders run away quick enough. Nobody came to visit me in the hospital. All I had after I was in the hospital was a judicial committee. That is it.
Here, this is one of the hardest things to say, and it's one of the hardest things to hear, Jerry, but if you're Jehovah's Witness family, if you're disfellowshipped or whatever, they don't love you. They just don't. And it's not, and I'm not disparaging them as people. I'm just telling you the truth, that your JW relatives don't love you, and you just need to get away from them.
There's so many people that go back who just have no intention, have no desire to be in it, but they go back for their families. They go sit in the back of the Kingdom Hall for a year, and they write a letter, and then maybe fade away after.
Volunteers doing a community service today and this morning on your street with you and your neighbors and everything, and you're like, huh? It's almost like an infomercial thing and they don't get to the point. See, that's the problem, and this is why Jehovah can't even be This is why Jehovah can't even rightly hold worldly people accountable for not bending their knee to him and glorifying his name or whatever. They really did never have the opportunity, because the people who come to the doors don't get to the point, and also if they leave an awake in the door, they count it as the person's chance. They say, oh, well, there we go. And then they write it down on a slip of paper that person got their chance, so they can be killed at Armageddon.
One time he was like, here's the truth, you can joke on it.
It's getting worse, Jerry. Now they don't, now have you seen on TV and on YouTube? They don't even talk to people. They stand on the sidewalk holding up a magazine in each hand. They don't even make eye contact with people. They don't even greet people. They stand there. They do what...
Because I've lived in LA and New York for the last 20 years. Never had a Jehovah's Witness ever come to my door, and there's no way that they would know that this is me, right? So there's no way they would know that this person was there. Never had anybody come to my door, because I lived in fairly upscale neighborhoods. They don't come over here, but I see them constantly.
It's not getting better. And now the only time Jehovah's Witnesses are on TV is talking about child molestation.
Child molestation. The only time.
At what point are you going to concede that the preaching work failed? And it's their fault. It's not even Jehovah's fault. It's not the worldly people's fault. It is the Watchtower Society's fault, and I'll tell you why. And I could give you 5 or 6 reasons. I'll give you the foremost and most obvious. The presentations don't work. Now they work. Now we're talking about people that are broken and need to be fixed, and they're depressed, and they're alcoholics, or yes, the presentations are tailor-made for the riffraff of society, and to bring them into the Kingdom Hall, and to give them that sense of whatever. Here's what the presentations don't do for normal people. Anything. You go to the door and you say, why is life so full of problems? Have you ever wondered that, sir? And then you go into this 30-second thing, and a normal person standing at the door is like, I don't have time for this. Who are you? And they shut the door. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what any sensible person would do when somebody that is dressed like a salesman with a book bag shows up at their door unannounced. They don't even just ring the doorbell and say, hey, you probably heard of us, we're Jehovah's Witnesses. It's what we do. We witness about Jehovah. They don't even start off by that. They start off by saying, yes, we're happening. What's it all for?
I thought that years ago. For me, it was, you said you were away for a few years. I was away for almost 20 years before I looked back. I never looked back. And it was really easy because no matter what Jehovah's Witnesses think, nobody else in the world gives a shit about them. I've been all over the world.
Thank you.
Very easy to not see them.
Thank you. Exactly. That's what I keep telling people, and nobody wants to believe it. I'm saying nobody gives 2 flips about Jehovah's Witnesses, and that's the whole point. That's the whole point. That everything they've done for 100 years is worthless because it didn't amount to anything. I'm not talking about in Borneo or Mongolia or someplace like this. In the United States, I have told people I'm Jehovah's Witness, and they say, "Oh, what?" Jerry, that's a bad sign.
In Brooklyn, I go, hey, that building right over there. You know anything about that building? Oh, no. What does that say? Watchtower, what's that?
It's inexcusable. No, pretend you're Jehovah setting up in the sky, and you're looking down on this. And you've had some of the conversations I have where I say, I was raised Jehovah's Witness, and they say, what? They don't know what it is in the United States. In the year 2015, they never heard of a Jehovah's Witness. Here's the problem, Jerry. It's getting worse.